Well, Premier Ford is teasing more elements of his new crime bill, which is expected to be tabled later this month. Among provisions is making impaired drivers pay ongoing child support if they kill the child's parent or guardian. The government compares the measure to a 2023 Texas law that requires impaired drivers convicted of intoxication manslaughter to pay child support until a child turns 18 or graduates high school if their parent's killed. According to the province, there were 182 deaths caused by impaired driving on Ontario roads in 2021. 96 involving alcohol, 86 due to drugs. Last year, the province introduced a lifetime license suspension for anyone convicted of impaired driving, causing death under the criminal code. Ontario Attorney General Doug Downey talked about the legislation at Queen's Park today.
We've looked at different penalty systems. BC has a different system. New Brunswick has a different system in terms of drinking and driving laws. But we're looking in particular for protecting children or protecting the future of children at places that have things in place. And Texas is the easiest example to understand because you get into child support payments, quite frankly, as a consequence of actions.
And members of the opposition responded to the idea today.
The government's having a really hard time in there right now. The premier obviously doesn't even have the guts to show up and answer questions on these issues, and that's not going to stop me from asking the questions. And I think it would be pretty cynical of the government to use, children who are the victims and families who are the victims of drunk drivers as a way to distract from what's happening here. I would hope that the Attorney General is better than that.
We certainly want to do anything to make sure we do not have people who are impaired driving. We want to do everything we possible to discourage it. If this is one way to do that, it's great. It feels a bit rich coming from a government that's put alcohol in corner stores and en routes and have been removing all road safety measures. But hey, if this helps, fine.
Last year, again, the province introduced this lifetime license suspension for anyone convicted of impaired driving causing death under the criminal code. For more on this, I'm joined live by Tanya Hansen Pratt, National President of Mothers Against Drunk Driving Canada, MAD Canada. Ms. Hansen Pratt, thanks a lot for joining us. First off, what are your initial thoughts about this?
Well, I think the first thing to say is to simply applaud any action that supports victims and survivors of this violent crime. Unfortunately, the reality is that children, minors, lose parents and guardians to this selfish decision by impaired drivers. So any action that can be taken to support them, to provide them with some kind of financial relief after this major loss in their lives, I think needs to be applauded.
And along with that, we have to talk about the reality of, children who lose parents to or guardians to drunk drivers.
Absolutely. And that's such an incredible loss to lose a parent. I lost my mom to impaired driving. I wasn't underage at the time, but I was still quite young. And to lose that physical support, spiritual, emotional, financial support at such a young age is a tremendous loss. So I applaud a decision to support young people, to help them kind of transition their lives from having that support from a parent to not having that support very, very suddenly. There's absolutely no notice given to someone, right? It's not like they were sick for a long time. They just wake up one day and their life has changed forever.
What message do you think this sends to people, especially because, there have been some high profile cases where, impaired drivers get a slap on the wrist?
Right. I'm not going to sit here and say that this is going to be a wild deterrent, because we know this isn't what people think of when they're getting behind the wheel impaired. No one's going to stop making a poor decision because they think they're going to have to pay child support the next day. I don't think that's going to work as a deterrent. Certainly, deterrents need to be considered. Things like mandatory alcohol screening, just making sure that we get people off the road and that impaired drivers know that there's a chance that they can be caught. That is what we know that the data says is a deterrent.
When it comes to those deterrents and also consequences, what do you have to say about the system as a whole?
Well, the system needs to function to get impaired drivers off the road. First and foremost, that we need to make sure this crime isn't happening to begin with. But for the people that do make those poor decisions, there needs to be swift action to make sure they are removed from the road and that the opportunities for them to continue driving impaired are taken away from them, that they don't have those opportunities, whether that be removing their license, extending a beginner license, for example, any kind of consequence that makes it harder for them to drive impaired.
Tanya Hansen Pratt, National President of Mothers Against Drunk Driving Canada. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Bakari.